What Qur'an says about Moses, peace be upon him, and the Red Sea, or Reed Sea. Did Moses, peace be upon him, and the Israelites cross the Red Sea? Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Salamun alaikum. I'm not going to talk about the whole story of Prophet Moses, peace be upon him, as most of us know who he was. I'm going to talk about one event that we believe as one of the miracles performed by Prophet Moses, peace be upon him. The event is documented and believed by three major Abrahamic religions: Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. The interpretations of the event taken from the Bible are still under dispute. If I were asked that question 40 years ago, my answer would be, Moses, peace be upon him, and the Israelites crossed the sea. Absolutely. I saw it myself in the movie, The Ten Commandments, starring Charlton Heston. Well, it was a very good movie. And also, it won't be a surprise if you ask any Muslim you can find. They will go for the same answer, the Red Sea. But is it the Red Sea? So, what does the Bible say? In Exodus 10:19, from King James Version, I quote, "And the Lord turned a mighty strong west wind, which took away the locusts, and cast them into the Red Sea. There remained not one locust in all the coast of Egypt." The other version is from New Jewish Publication Society. I quote, "The Lord caused a shift to a very strong west wind, which lifted the locusts, and hurled them into the sea of reeds. Not a single locust remained in all the territory of Egypt." In Exodus narrative, Hebrew Yam Suf means Reed Sea, not Red Sea. It is the body of water which the Israelites crossed following their exodus from Egypt. The same phrase appears in over 20 other places in the Hebrew Bible. This has traditionally been interpreted as referring to the Red Sea. Since the dispute is still ongoing and there is no agreement set among them, why don't we ask the Qur'an point of view of the event? Okay, first, let's forget about the dispute, forget about the movie. Well, I would set them aside for a moment. Qur'an, the holy book of Muslim. It is the central religious text of Islam, believed by Muslims to be a revelation from God, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are the collections of ayahs, or verses, in the Qur'an related to the event, and I'm using translation released by Shahih International. From Surah Toha 77, I quote, "And we had inspired to Moses, travel by night with my servants, and strike for them a dry path through the sea. We will not fear being overtaken by pharaohs, or be afraid of drowning." Another verse from Taha 78. "So Pharaoh pursued them with his soldiers, and there covered them from the sea, that which covered them." The two verses are talking about sea, but the first verse, Taha 77, is using Bahr to refer to sea, and the other one, Taha 78, is using Yam to refer to sea. So, it may look like Qur'an is referring to sea from the translations, but wait, I know you are as confused as I do. Both Yam and Bahr are translated as sea. Let's take a look at another verses. We need to remember that Qur'an is meant to be clear and self-explanatory. From Surah Toha, verse 97, I quote, Moses said, Then go, and indeed, it is decreed for you in this life to say, No contact. And indeed, you have an appointment in the hereafter you will not fail to keep. And look at your God, to which you remain devoted. We will surely burn it and blow it into the sea with a blast. As you can see from the verses shown, it may seem like there is inconsistency in the meaning of sea in Quranic Arabic. Let's check more verses. From Surah Qasas 7, I quote, And we inspired to the mother of Moses, Suckle him, but when you fear for him, cast him into the river. And do not fear and do not grieve. Indeed, we will return him to you, and will make him one of the messengers. Another one from Qasas 40. I quote, So we took him and his soldiers and threw them into the sea. So see, how was the end of the wrongdoers? Both verses translate Yam as sea. A couple of days ago, I asked my son, he's 20 years old by the way, to strike his house 3 times with a wooden stick or staff. He said, Don't be ridiculous, Dad. This time I say, Please do it. Then he took this, and looking for something to strike. Now he's done it. Her mother comes out from nowhere and shouts, What? I say, what's going on here? Yes, of course. He hits either the fence, or the wall, or the roof, or the window, or the door. Yes, he hits the body part of the house. No one can actually hit a house with a stick. I'm sure now you're getting it, or about to. As it does the body part of a house, it also does to the body of water, regardless sea or river, or even body part of flood. Moses, peace be upon him, only struck the body part of water. Now, which part of Quranic verses explain the body part of water? From Surah Toha 77. I'm not going to quote that again because it's already quoted earlier. But I'm going to quote another surah from Ash-Shu'ara, verse 63. I quote, Then we inspired to Moses, Strike with your staff the sea. And it parted, and its portion was like a great towering mountain. Now we can all agree that Bahr is body part of water. But we need to know, is it the body part of sea or the body part of river? Let's take a look at the story of little baby Moses. From Surah Taha 39. I quote, saying, Cast him into the chest and cast it into the river, and the river will throw it onto the bank. There will take him an enemy to me, and an enemy to him. And I bestowed upon you love from me, and that you would be brought up under my eye. Did you notice? Voila, touché. Do you still believe Moses, peace be upon him, and the Israelites crossed the Red Sea? Well, alrighty then. Let's take a look at another verse, just to make sure. From Surah Qasas, verse 40. And I quote, So we took him and his soldiers and threw them into the sea. So see how was the end of the wrongdoer. So, if I may conclude, there is nothing inconsistent in the story of Moses, peace be upon him, in the Qur'an. It is a translation or the interpretation issue. Well, perhaps the translator was somehow influenced by the Charlton Heston's Moses. Well, if you still have a doubt whether Pbuh means both body of water, regardless sea or river, here's another verse. From Qur'An, verse 53. And I quote, "And it is He who has released simultaneously the two seas, one fresh and sweet, and one salty and bitter. And He placed between them a barrier and prohibiting partition." But I am sure that verse explains everything. Is that all what the Qur'an tells us? No, there's another clue from Qur'an, taken from Surah Ash-Shu'ara, verse 52. And I quote, "And we inspired to Moses, travel by night with my servants. Indeed, you will be pursued." Please pay attention to the words travel by night. Here's another one, another verse from Surah Taha 77. Again, it was already mentioned earlier, so I wouldn't repeat it. But please notice the words travel by night. If you're taking word by word from the two verses, the verses don't say anything about night. The translation does. But bear with me for a minute. Let's check another surah from Surah Ash-Shu'ara, verse 60. I quote, "So they pursued them at sunrise." Now I'm going to give you an analogy. When we say to someone, "All right, mate, I'll catch up with you in the morning." When or what time could you say that? Or there's another way. You may read Qur'an Surah Taha, verse 52 to 60. You would simply implicitly say, okay, it was at least at night the day before they reached the body of water. Or can I say river now? So, what time do you think Moses, peace be upon him, and the Israelites left Memphis, Egypt? How far can they go until pursued by Pharaoh? Well, they could have left at 10 o'clock or midnight. Well, they were walking, by the way. Alright, let's take a look at the map, shall we? Tell us what you think. Which body of water that Prophet Moses, peace be upon him, and the Israelites reached. Thank you for watching this video. This is my first content in YouTube. I took this knowledge from my Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I may or may not interpret it right, but the haqq or the truth remain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I have no intention of creating controversy. I mainly present this to encourage people to read Qur'an.